Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to ECMC's Financial Awareness Basics webinar. My name is Tom Bailey, and I'm an outreach manager here at ECMC, and I'm joined today by my partner, Abril Hunt, who's also an ECMC outreach manager. We are both AFCPE accredited financial counselors and are happy to be here with you today to bring you this very important information. Now, ECMC is pleased to and proud, honestly, to partner with AFCPE to offer you 1 CEU credit for your participation today. Now, today's session is on identity theft and steps to repair your credit. We do know that identity theft happens about every 2 seconds in this country, and it happens to people of all ages, from infants to the elderly. And it seems like just about every day we hear about these big data breaches in the news, and most of the time there's little that you and I can do to prevent those types of thefts from happening as individuals. However, today we're going to talk about some simple tips to avoid identity theft, along with important steps to repair your credit if you become a victim. But first, I'm going to turn it over to Abril to introduce herself and to show us how to interact with us during today's session. We really do want your participation today.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Hi, everybody. Okay, so as you entered the room today, your mics were set to mute so that we could minimize background noise, but we do want you to be able to interact with us during the session. So this exercise is going to show you how to use the chat feature so that you can talk back and forth to us. So I'm not going to give you any hints. Just take a minute to see if you can find the chat button and then tell us where you're calling in from.
Good. It looks like a lot of people weighing in here and telling us where they're calling in from. We've got a good crowd from across the country, don't we?
Yep. Ooh, even Alaska, right on. Welcome, everybody.
Terrific. So what are we going to talk about today? I think we already have a little bit of a clue, but we're going to define what exactly is identity theft. We're going to take a look at some of the alarming statistics around losses. It's staggering, it's astronomical, the amount of loss, and not just dollar amount of loss, but we'll talk about some of the psychological effects. We'll look at how it happens, some of the things that we do on a daily basis we may not even think about could make us vulnerable. We'll talk about how to repair your credit if you do become a victim. And then, of course, that whole why me, that whole psychological aspect. And then we'll look at some prevention tips. And at the end, we'll give you some resources if you'd like additional information on this topic.
Yep. Alrighty. So what is identity theft? Well, first off, it's one of the fastest growing crimes in the US. And identity theft occurs when a person uses your personal information, like your social security number and your date of birth, with the intent to commit fraud or an unlawful activity. Once your personal information is obtained, that thief might open a new credit card account, bank account in your name, write bad checks in your name, take out a loan in your name. So with just a few key pieces of information, an identity theft can actually become you pretty easily. So I have a list here of some of the items thieves love to get their hands on to become you and do all kinds of damage to you financially. Your name and address, your social, date of birth, account numbers, credit card numbers, bank information, and the one that blew my mind was medical insurance information.
Crazy. All right, so we do want your participation in today's session. So we have some polls for you throughout the session today. This is the first time Abril and I've actually used the poll feature within Zoom, so we're really excited to have you here and test this out on you, kind of our guinea pigs, if you will, today. So bear with us here for a second. Let me open up the poll here. So in 2017, what was the total loss to consumers due to identity theft? Now we have A, $100 million, B, $16.8 million, and C, $1.2 billion. So we'll give you about 15, 20 seconds to weigh in on the poll here.
Okay. Oh, they're coming in.
All right, it looks like everybody who is going to weigh in has voted, and so with that, I'm going to turn the slide here and turn it over to Abril, and she's going to give us some information here about what the actual answer is. It might be surprising to you.
Yep. Okay, so this is interesting. In 2018, so this is really new, Javelin Strategy and Research released a study on identity fraud that revealed that 16.7 million US consumers were victims of identity fraud. And this was an 8% increase over 2017. Now, these increases are a record high since Javelin began their research. I think it was back in 2003. So 16.7 million. The study found that despite industry efforts to prevent identity fraud, cyber criminals are just adapting their hustles to hook 1.3 million more victims. They did that in 2017. And the total amount stolen in 2017, 16.8 billion. The complexity of the the complexity of the fraud is also on the rise as criminals have started opening multiple accounts for each victim as a means of compromising the accounts that the consumers already have.
That's alarming. That just is really scary. Now, surprisingly, there are so many ways that your identity can be stolen. We're going to break down some of the most common low-tech and high-tech ways for you. But first, let's take a look at some of the low-tech methods or schemes, if you will, that the thieves are using. You'll be surprised at some of the creativity, honestly. The first thing we're going to talk about is good old-fashioned dumpster diving. Now, this occurs when someone goes through your trash and they're looking for information and they're trying to obtain personal identifiable information off of items that's found in your trash, such as credit card bills, utility bills, medical insurance, and bank statements. Then the next one is mail theft, and this is really prevalent in my town. I live pretty rurally, and our mailboxes are pretty far out to the road, and so on a daily basis, I hear about people that are posting out on our little social media group that their mail has been stolen, that their mailboxes were open during the night or whatever. So this does occur when someone targets your mailbox and removes mail that has pertinent information on it. As in dumpster diving, a thief can take your credit card bills, your bank statements, and anything they can use to steal your identity. Thieves have also been known to reroute your mail without your knowledge or permission by submitting a change of address to the post office. You know, we get our credit card statements, and on the back you can fill out a change of address information. So if they get that statement, they can do the same thing. So keep an eye out for something like that. If you're expecting bills on a regular basis and they stop coming, something to look at into. Also, there's something called social engineering, and in this practice, someone either in person or over the telephone or computer uses means to deceive someone else into divulging sensitive information. Usually social engineers know a little bit of information about the victim to lead them to believe they are legitimate, and you're more likely to give up the information that they're asking for. So that's another technique that they're using. Wow. There's something also called shoulder surfing. Now, this may occur when you use a password or a device that uses a PIN number, such as an ATM or a point-of-sale terminal. Now, the thief attempts to get close enough to you that when you enter the information, such as your PIN, the thief records it somehow, either visually or has some sort of a device maybe that they're recording it on. Although this can typically occur in a public setting where the victim is and their credentials are in plain sight, it also may occur through a video camera set up by the criminal. So unbeknownst to you, there might be somebody recording you. And then finally, stealing your personal items. Many of us have probably become a victim of theft this way. Identity thieves can also obtain your personal information by stealing your wallet or your purse. When this occurs, we recommend that you immediately contact the credit card companies, your bank, and the consumer credit bureaus to let them know of your situation.
Now, I got to talk about the high-tech schemes. So, credit card theft doesn't have to be on the physical card. And this can have far-reaching effects since the information on the card can be used to commit other types of identity theft crimes, from using the signature on the back of a card that's stolen, or even loaning a credit card to a friend or family member can help criminals obtain what they need to open other credit card accounts or bank accounts in the victim's name. A step that you can do to protect yourself is by writing the letters CID on the back of your signature panel instead of your actual signature on the back of your card. And by doing this, you're requesting that merchants request other forms of ID to verify that you are the user of the card. Another step you can take is to keep your card in sight when you're making payments. For instance, there are places such as restaurants where the waiter takes the card away from you to make the payment. And from there, the card can be swiped through the card reader, not only to make the legitimate payment, but also to make a copy of the information for themselves. So don't use credit cards on unverified sites. I think that goes without saying. But you do want to make sure that a lock appears in the upper left-hand corner of your web status bar. If there isn't one there, don't make the purchase. And never, ever, ever give your credit card over your cell phone. Do I need another never in there?
Right, good advice.
The next tech scheme we have is skimming, and this can happen anytime you use your credit or debit card. And the skimmer device reads your credit card information from the magnetic strip on the back, and then it records the information and then transfers your card's code numbers to the thief's electronic storage device, and that allows them to make a copy of your card to make unauthorized purchases. And skimming can occur a couple of different ways. It's extremely popular at ATM machines, so check where you insert your card to make sure there's not a false front attached. Then pretexting, and that occurs when a thief has done their research on you. So they've got some of your personal information, and then they're going to bait you to release more sensitive information like your credit card number or your social security number. These creeps will call you on the telephone and make you believe that they're a business that requires the information. And it's, to me anyway, it's alarming how many people fall for them or believe them based only on the fact that the criminals have their name, address, and phone number. And then lastly, we've got the man-in-the-middle attack. And this type of theft involves intercepting communication between two parties and then recording the information without the two parties ever knowing it. The thief then uses this information to access accounts and possibly steal the user's identity.
You know, it's too bad with all these different schemes and creativity involved that they don't use their powers for good instead of evil, right?
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk about some other schemes that thieves use to get their hands on your information. We're going to look at phishing schemes, and they are the most common types of computer identity theft schemes. In these types of frauds, the thief tricks you into giving your personal identifying information. These types of attacks can occur through a number of different mediums, including cell phone messages, internet social media networks, emails, text messages, and standard mail. The first thing we're going to take a look at is something called farming, and it's not, you know, with a tractor and a plow and that sort of thing. This is PHARMING. Now, this happens when a hacker tampers with a domain name so that the URL that you are going to is rerouted to a fake or spoofed website created by the hacker to capture personal identifying information from the victim. Now, the victim then thinks that they are on a trusted website, and they are more willing to enter their personal information, such as their credit card numbers, social security numbers, and addresses. The hacker then uses that information to commit that theft. Then we have something called phishing. That's with a V. This is a scheme that occurs when a thief contacts an individual over the telephone. In this case, or in this instance, the schemer poses as an individual working for a legitimate organization such as a government agency, a financial institution, or other well-known company. Now, the goal here is to get you to disclose your personal identifying information. Wow, and then there's something called search engine phishing. This is a type of phishing that occurs when the thief creates websites that contain too good to be true services and other incentives. They'll offer you, incentives to come there with maybe something for free or something at a reduced price that's pretty unbelievable. Now, the website is legitimately indexed into search engines such as Yahoo or Google, so that in the normal course of your searching, for products and services, individuals can find these offers. Now, once the individual accesses this website, the user is given incentives to be persuaded in such a way that the individual becomes susceptible to give up his or her information to take advantage of the too good to be true offers that's being given. And
Wow.
then, yeah, it's crazy. And then something called smishing. Now, in this scheme, this is a scheme when the identity thief sends spam text messages posing as financial institutions or other legitimate entities. Now, the text message has a sense of urgency. We do know that we tend to respond to text messages faster than we do emails. And that urgency will scare you into thinking there's a more serious emergency, leading you to believe that you'll suffer a financial loss, or there's a fee or penalty imposed if there's no response. Now, this may lead you to disclose personal identifying information by clicking on the link that appears in the text message.
Oh. Okay, I was just thinking as you were saying that smishing, and I'm like, the names that they come up with just makes me laugh. The next one's going to be smushing. I bet. Write it down. Okay, next we've got malware. And in these situations, the thief attacks a virus deceptively made to look helpful onto your emails, onto a website, and any other electronic documents on the internet. And the malware uses key and screen loggers to record your keyboard strokes and sites that you visit on the internet. The malware then sends that information by the dark web to the thief who's conveniently located somewhere else. Now we've got phishing through spam, and spam's probably familiar to you. In this scheme, the thief sends repeated spam emails to you, and these emails offer you tons of things: opportunities for scholarships, business partnerships, free products. In some instances, the spammer pretends to be a financial institution or maybe an organization you might belong to, and then the spam is sent to the device to deceive you, actually, into providing your personal identifying information. My favorite spam is when I learn I'm inheriting the fortune of my Nigerian relatives that I don't have. Lastly, we've got spearfish. And this scheme is very familiar to the email phishing scam, except it targets its attacks on businesses. So spearfishers will send an email to almost every employee of an organization, and IT can really look at it and think it's been sent by a division within the organization, like human resources or, as I said, IT. For instance, the email might say something like, every employee must send back their username and password for verification purposes. Spearphishing not only gives the attacker access to your personally identifiable information, but also the company's private information.
Crazy.
I know.
Just nuts.
Okay. So let's talk about next what the damage the thief can do with that. What do they do with your information? Well, first off, they buy lots of things with your credit cards, or they can get new credit cards. They can open a phone account for you or for themselves, electricity, gas accounts. They can steal your tax refund. They can even get medical care. That's the one that surprised me the most. And they can even pretend to be you if they're arrested, which I need to see. I need to Google that. There's also think about the kind of companies or places that might have your personal information, and that can be basically where the thieves are getting any of it. That's your doctor's office, pharmacy, work, school, any stores where you have department card. Basically, yeah, anywhere you use your credit card.
Well, guess what, Abril? We have another poll for the group today. So with that, what is the most common form of identity theft in 2017? Was it A, phone or utilities fraud, B, employment or tax related fraud, and C, credit card fraud? So I'm going to open up the poll here for you all and give you just a moment, about 15 seconds or so, to weigh in and vote on what you think it is. And then in the next slide, Abril's going to give us some important statistics on what the correct answer really is.
Yep,
so
I will.
Give it a few seconds. I see people are starting to vote here. So thank you very much. We really appreciate your input today.
Yep, you get gold stars.
Absolutely. All right, good job, everyone. I think everyone has voted. It seems to have tapered off a little bit here. So let's go ahead and talk about what the correct answer is.
Yep. So the most common form of identity theft, let's take a look at the numbers. The first one is employment or tax-related fraud. That comes in at 34%. And that's when a criminal uses your social security number or other personal information to gain employment or to file an income tax return. And it's almost tied. I mean, a close second is credit card fraud. And of course, this is when a thief uses your card or card number to make fraudulent purchases. Then we've got phone or utilities fraud, and that's 13% of the vote, 13% of the numbers. And this is when the criminal uses your personal information to open up a wireless phone or utility account. And then we've got bank fraud. And in these situations, the thief will use someone else's personal information to take over an existing financial account or to open a new account in someone else's name. And then tied for fifth place at 7%, we have loan or lease fraud and government documents or benefits fraud. Now, loan or lease fraud is using someone else's information to obtain a loan or a lease, and the latter is using stolen personal information to obtain government benefits.
All righty, so we all lead very busy lives, and it may not be easy for us to notice that we've become a victim of identity theft. We're going to give you some ways here that you can potentially spot warning signs that you may have become a victim. So first off is unexplained withdrawals from your bank account. So let's just say you go to the ATM and all of a sudden, to withdraw money, and all of a sudden you don't have money in there to withdraw, and you know that there's money in your account, might be a problem. Also, if you're trying to, or if you're balancing your checkbook on a monthly basis, as we recommend, if you're way off and you see unidentified withdrawals from your account, that could be another warning sign as well. Another sign, and I mentioned this just a few minutes ago, if you don't get your bills or other mail on a regular basis that you regularly receive. So say, for instance, your utility bills or credit card statements, that sort of thing that you expect monthly, if you stop receiving those, that might be a sign. Another indicator might be if debt collectors start contacting you about debts that aren't yours. So take a look at that one as well. Unfamiliar charges or accounts that show up on your credit report. So if you're pulling your credit report on a regular basis, as we recommend, and you see accounts on there that aren't yours, take a look into the possibility or investigate the possibility of identity theft. And also, if you see charges, unexplained charges on your credit card, you might want to take a look at that as well. And then lastly, if the IRS notifies you that one or more tax return was filed in your name, that's a big red flag right there. A good friend of mine and a former coworker filed her taxes a couple of years ago expecting a refund. And so in the mail, what she expected to be was her check. She got a notice from the IRS that her taxes had already been filed and her refund had been dispersed. So in that instance, somebody else got her refund. She had become a victim of identity theft using her social security number. So that's something you want to be aware of. It does occur.
I was just thinking, I'd love for it to have somebody hack my income tax return so that they can make my payment that I make at the end of the year, because I don't get a refund.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about social media. The very nature of social media is what offers such a ripe opportunity for thieves. I mean, you have to, given the fact that most social media's revenue stream, it comes from targeted advertising, like Facebook encouraging you to enter as much personal information as possible. And oh my gosh, I was totally guilty of it when I signed up really early on. I was so excited to list every single personal detail you could imagine on that site. I've since gone in and updated it. But if you think about it, take the typical Facebook profile, okay? And it includes like pictures of you, your full name, your hometown, where you grew up, where you graduated from high school, your current location, where you went to college, your graduation date, your birth date. Even people even post their relationship status. So, I mean, I know you might ask yourself, what's the big deal? After all, you aren't exposing your social security number, your bank account number, or or your credit card number. So how can you really be at risk? Well, think of your identity as a puzzle, and each piece of personal information is like a piece of that puzzle. So if you get your Facebook account hacked, it really becomes as easy as pie for hackers to collect all the information that they need to impersonate you, and then they can gain access to your credit cards, bank accounts, and anything else they want.
All right, so, you know, we all like to share what's going on in our lives with our friends and family on social media. You know, we like to share things like, you know, our vacations, our weddings, births, things like that. And sometimes we also share our, you know, want our friends to share in our sorrow if something bad happens. We're all a little narcissistic, probably a little deep down. I know I am, and I like to share what's going on in my life. But sometimes we might be oversharing. So what are the things that we should not be posting on social media? Why should we avoid listing the following information? Things like birth dates, hometowns, home addresses, year of high school or graduation, college or primary addresses. Anybody have an idea?
I do.
Yeah, I know you do. All righty. So let's think about that for a few minutes, but also only invite people into your network that you know or have met, as opposed to friends of friends or strangers. I mean, let's face it, it's not a popularity contest. We're not in high school anymore. And so we really should be only accepting invitations or inviting people into our social network that we really, you know, have some sort of a connection to. Also, what you want to do is use age shifting to protect your real birth date, and you can keep it close. As a matter of fact, all you have to do is maybe change the year or the day or something like that. But, you know, use age shifting, and then watch what you post and where you say it, as a thief can use it later on. So be very careful, be very wary of what you're posting on social media.
So next I'm going to talk to you about how to defend yourself against attacks. And my first tip, it's not my tip, it's the first fact, is you need to keep your social security card locked up, not to carry it in your wallet or purse. And this one's especially funny to me today because last night I was watching, I was Netflixing, and I watched an old movie called Double Jeopardy, where Ashley Judd is accused of killing her husband. And there's a scene where Tommy Lee Jones says, here's your social security card, put it in your wallet, don't lose it. And I just giggled, and I'm like, oh, that was before the advent of all this. So you don't want to keep any important papers with personal information where people have access to it. So don't download attachments or click on links unless you are positive that they are legitimate. You also want to install anti-malware software on your electronic devices, and then keep that malware current, because of course as soon as it's written, thieves figure out a way to hack it. And make sure that you're using strong passwords. I think we all know that, and we hate hearing it because it's a hassle and we can't remember them, but that's what's going to save your bacon. And then shred papers with personal information that you don't need to keep. If you're a student and you're on campus, find a place to keep your important papers that you can lock up in a secure place in your room. And maybe if you're getting mail on campus, make sure the important mail is sent to your home address. It's most likely a lot more secure. Also, take yourself off marketing lists for pre-approved credit. And if you do get the solicitations like that, pop them in the shredder. Another thing that you might want to do, or actually I encourage you to do, and I'm wagging my finger, you need to do this, is to check your credit report annually. Now, there's three major credit reporting agencies. I mean, there's more than that, but the three major ones are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. And if you go to annualcreditreport.com, this is the only website that's authorized by the federal government to provide you with a free copy of each of those credit reports. Now, there's other sites that are copycat similar, that they appear to offer a free credit report, but in the fine print, you probably find out that you've signed up for some sort of credit monitoring service that you don't need. So adjust the privacy settings on your social network sites to make it more difficult for people you don't know to view your information or post material on your page. make sure that you understand the privacy policy of the social networking sites you use and with whom they share information. That's usually that long rider at the very beginning when you sign up that none of us read. We just click through it and say, yes, I agree. Take the time to at least skim it. Don't store personal information on your laptop or your smartphone. Also, don't store password information on your laptop or smartphone. Encrypt all data on your electronic devices. And you want to be aware of Wi-Fi because it's not always secure. So especially don't use it for financial transactions. And again, limit the information you share on social media.
All righty. Now, this is one that's near and dear to my heart. I'm a Primeaholic. I have my Amazon Prime, but not only that, I do a lot of shopping online, and I love shopping online, partly because I live rurally and the only store in town really of any substance is the Walmart. There's things I just can't get at Walmart. And then also convenience. I love being, I work at home. I love being able to make my list out, shop online and have it delivered within a day or two, and that way I never have to leave the house, but there's a downside to that, I guess. But with that, I'm sending my personal information across the internet, oftentimes a credit card number, that sort of thing. So look for security features when you're shopping online or doing any type of transactions online, such as HTTPS. Make sure you look at that in the URL. The S stands for secure. You're also going to want to look for that padlock icon. That's also an indication that the site is secure. Additionally, create strong passwords. Now, a strong password, it's really important protection to help you keep you safer online when you are transacting business. So here's some steps that you can take to create a strong password so that you can protect yourself online. Make sure your passwords are long with at least 8 characters or more. Also, make sure that your passwords are complex. Use letters, punctuation, symbols, numbers. Use the entire keyboard if you have to or if you need to. Just not, don't limit yourself just to letters and characters that you use most often. The greater the variety of the password, the better off you are. However, password hacking software automatically checks for things like letter to symbol conversions, such as changing the word and to ampersand or the word to, T-O, to the number 2. Now, keep strong passwords effective by changing them often. Set up an automatic reminder if you need to on your calendar to remind yourself to change your passwords for things like your email and your banking, your credit card and websites and things like that for every 3 months or so. Also, this one I'm guilty of, and I've started changing things since we started talking about this webinar in the last couple months, but don't use the same password for everything. Cyber criminals can steal password on websites that have very little security, and then they use the same password, and username in other environments, or they'll take it and use it. So basically, you've given them the keys to the kingdom. So don't do that. I've started mixing it up. So even though I said I've been using the same password, don't try to hack me. It won't work.
Totally. I'm guilty of that too. My husband always says, use passphrases. And I'm like, I can't remember a passphrase.
Right?
Okay, so I want to go back a minute to credit reports. Now, I said Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Those are the 3 major credit reporting bureaus. And they're required to provide consumers, upon request, a free copy of their credit report once every 12 months. So if you go to annualcreditreport.com, you can request all of your reports at once if you want to, or you can space them out over the course of a year. And you can also get a credit report from a different credit reporting agency every 4 months, but those aren't free. So whether you break up your free reports or order additional ones, getting a copy of your report every 4 months, it really is helpful. A little bit more helpful than once a year because you're going to catch if there's something on there that's inaccurate a little bit sooner.
Absolutely right. Okay, we have our 3rd and final poll. So, yeah, what is the one what is one of the first things you should do if you become a victim of identity theft? A, contact any businesses where you know fraud has occurred. B, panic. C, obtain copies of your consumer credit report, or both, or D, both A and C. So I'm going to open up the poll here and give you about 15 seconds and see where you all land. Good job. I see people are starting to vote here. It lets us know that you're still with us, and we're glad to hear that.
You're still out there and breathing and listening.
Absolutely. All right, it looks like the poll's pretty slowed down, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and I'm going to turn it over to Abril again to tell us what steps we need to take.
And before I do that, I want to acknowledge that even though it's not what we're supposed to do, we all panic, right? So let's just address the elephant in the room. We're going to panic and not get over it, panic and move on, because you've got a limited amount of time to get this taken care of. So first thing you want to do is contact any businesses where you know or you suspect that the fraud occurred. Call the fraud department for your card if there is one, explain your situation, and ask to close or freeze your account. If you've been using the company's website, immediately change all your passwords. Then you want to contact all 3 credit bureaus and place a fraud alert. And that really makes it harder for an identity thief to open new accounts in your name. Once an alert's placed, businesses have to verify your identity before they can issue credit. And the alert's free and it lasts for 90 days. And if you need to go longer than that, you can renew it for another 90 days. And also just a word to the wise, all of the bureaus are required to inform the other 2 on your behalf, but I probably would call all 3 just to be on the safe side. So, and again, take a look at your credit reports, make note of anything that you don't recognize. And this step's going to help you when you're reporting your facts to the police and to the Federal Trade Commission. That's the government entity that helps victims of identity theft. Also, be sure to check that all of your personal, well, actually all of the information on the credit report is accurate, like your name, make sure it's not misspelled, your address, make sure that's up to date, social security number, prior employers, make sure all of that is free of errors. And then complete the online form available from identitytheft.gov. That's important because the agency will work with you on your identity theft affidavit and recovery plan.
So after you've taken those initial steps, what do you really need, what should you do next? Abril talked about a police report, and it's really important that you go to the police station and talk to them and file a report. Now make sure you get a copy of that police report. The combination of your identity theft affidavit that you completed on the Federal Trade Commission's website and the police report amounts to what's considered an identity theft report. An identity theft report is a police report that includes specific information for credit bureaus and creditors that can help you determine the validity or help them determine the validity of your claim. So it's important to go ahead and proceed with those steps. Now, the police departments, we'll give you a little bit of a note here. Police departments are sometimes hesitant to help victims of identity theft on the grounds that, they're just too busy, with higher priority crimes that they're investigating. But be insistent. Most states require that police reports or police write reports and file reports for identity theft victims. So it's a long, if you become a victim, it's a long and lengthy process, but you do need to be patient and be persistent with the police as well. All righty, so here's some steps to repair your credit. First of all, you're going to close any account that you that is a fraud account. You're going to get those closed immediately. So contact the credit card company, the lender, whomever, or the utility company, and get those accounts closed. You're going to ask the credit grantor to remove fraudulent charges. So if the fraud happened on your personal credit card in your name that was truly your credit card, they are required to remove those fraudulent charges. Then you're going to file an extended fraud alert beyond the typical 90-day process, or the 90-day window. I have credit monitoring on my smartphone through Experian, and it's extremely easy to get that extended or that freeze put on your account. So don't fall into that trap. It's easier to do nothing than do something. So it's very easy to do. So you can do that online. And then finally, you will have to file a freeze with all 3 credit bureaus. Again, it's something that's easier to do than it was in the past. So those are the steps that you need to do or need to take to start your recovery process.
So much easier now than it was in the 80s, because I had it happen to me a couple of times. And in the 80s, yeah, you had to write a physical letter to everybody. And I think it was 2 years ago when my purse was stolen. I did everything online except go to file my police report. And it was a relief that I could do it from my home. So, okay, once we've gone over their schemes, what to do if your identity is stolen. It's time to repair the damage and protect your identity for the future. So write to all of the credit bureaus. We've got a sample letter here for you. Again, you can do it online. You can pop them an email, but you want to include a copy of your identity theft report and proof of your identity so they know it's actually you. And then point out which items on your report are related to the identity theft. And then again, each bureau, you got to go to each bureau and block the incorrect information. If you decide to do it old school and send them via United States Postal Service, make sure you do it by certified mail and be sure to hold on to the return receipt.
Here's a list of items that you need to keep long-term and in a safe place. As I mentioned previously on the last slide, that recovery is going to take a long time. It's going to be a lengthy process in most cases. You need to be patient, and you need to protect yourself by keeping these documents in a fireproof container, safe, or whatever you have. So just to safeguard yourself, you'll need a copy of that identity theft report, and that's the affidavit that you filed online with the Federal Trade Commission and your police report. Also, you'll need proof of identity, so something like a state-issued identification card, a driver's license, your passport, that sort of thing. So keep a copy in there. A copy of your consumer credit report, as well as a PDF copy of the Fair Credit Reporting section, the Fair Credit Reporting Act Section 605B. And that was a copy of that letter that we just saw on the previous screen. We did grab that from the Federal Trade Commission's website. So that is 605B. Keep all of that together. Keep it for years if you have to, because it can come back and haunt you for a long, long time. Oftentimes, identity theft can be cleared up. Sometimes it's minor, but sometimes it gets so involved, and again, just protect yourself, save those documents.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about taking care of your credit and getting that back on track. We need to talk about taking care of ourselves as well. That's a hugely important part of the recovery. So when you first discover that you're a victim of identity theft, you need to be prepared for a roller coaster ride of emotions. As the implications sink in, you might find yourself cycling between denial and rage, and then just endless questioning yourself. How is this possible? Why did it happen to me? And not to mention feelings of hopelessness and vulnerability. I know I cycled through rage quite a bit when that happened to me, and then I didn't necessarily dwell on the why me, but I was just in denial. Oh, how that didn't happen, and furious that it did. So it's normal for this crime to have an emotional impact on you and your family. In fact, it would be unusual if it didn't. So it's a complex issue, and it's not surprising that some victims react differently. Some of them react like similar to survivors of prolonged trauma, like battered women or prisoners of war. In fact, I read that some actually experience a form of PTSD for a short time. So you need to take care of yourself. And few people are emotionally protected from the impact of this theft. And at one point or another, you're going to feel overwhelmed by the psychological pain of the loss, the helplessness, the anger, and the embarrassment maybe. And this crime triggers deep fears regarding financial security and the safety of family members, and also the ability to ever trust again. So it's not uncommon for identity theft victims to shut down emotionally and maybe even withdraw from family, friends, and coworkers. You may also have to deal with the fact that someone you know might have been involved in the theft, and that's a lot to absorb. You might suspect that someone you know committed this crime, and you might also feel that no one seems to care or understand how devastated you are by the crime. And let's face it, many of our friends and family members, they get tired of hearing about the crime after the first or second time, mainly because there's nothing they can do to help you. But unfortunately, it takes months for this to get completely cleared up. And you might need to find someone else to talk to. Maybe your employer offers an EAP program, but it's definitely going to take more than a couple of days for you to recover. So be kind to yourself. Take care of the paperwork, but don't forget to leave a little time to work on healing yourself and your family's wounds as well.
Good advice, and that's all true. As we've mentioned, Abril and I both have become victims, and you know, you just feel betrayed. Anyway.
I was mad.
Oh, yeah. Well, that too. Okay, so with every session that we host, we always provide resources. So here's the contact information for Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Now, keep in mind, we will be sending out a copy of this presentation, so you don't need to write this down, hurry up and write this down. You'll have this in a PDF format. So here's the contact information for each one of the consumer credit reporting agencies.
Right on. Okay, and our resources that we pulled, not all of our information from, but we always like to list where we got the information that we talked about on the webinar for you. So they're listed here. I'm not going to read every single one. The noidentitytheft.com, I really like that website, but you know, my favorite one is the last one on this list, which is ECMC's Financial Awareness Basics, because we have a great document on preventing identity theft. Is that a shameless plug?
I was getting ready to say that. Good job. We think alike, which probably is a little scary.
Okay, now also, in case you didn't know, in case you're not like a long-time listener or joiner, we do our webinars pretty much weekly on Wednesdays. And so I have a list here, or we have a list of some of the webinars that are coming up. Need or Greed, Recognizing Spending Creep, that's coming up on the 6th. And that addresses the phenomenon of what, you know, every time we make a little bit more, get a little bit more of a raise, we just adjust our spending up to that new limit, and rather than parking that money in our savings for retirement. So we're going to talk about that. And then on the 13th, we actually have a special webinar. We have a guest speaker to go over the incorrect data challenge. If any of you are on a college campus and you're involved in challenging your cohort default rates, that workshop's on the 13th. And that's followed by a webinar on scholarships. And it really is a comprehensive, even though it's 101, we really go deep into how to find scholarships and how to make sure you actually get them. And then we're rounding out the first quarter of 2019 with some simple budgeting steps for your students that say they can't budget because they don't make enough money. We're going to show you how to show them that that's not the case. And you can register here at the link that's down at the bottom.
Thanks, Abril. And if you would all do us a favor, we would like to hear your feedback about today's session. It's really important that we do get feedback from you so that we can continue to keep doing the work that we're doing. So we want to hear, you know, things like, what did you like about today's session? What maybe you didn't like? What you'd like to see in the future? There's like maybe a handful of questions. So if you could find your way out to this website, again, this will be in the copy of the presentation and the body of the email that I send out. So please complete the survey at SurveyMonkey. With that, we'd like to thank you for spending part of your day with us. We know how valuable your time, and we hope we've made good use of that time. Here's our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us via email, mostly via email because we are traveling an awful lot, and that's the best way to reach us. But you can also try us on our cell phones as well. If you need a certificate showing that you participated in today's webinar, just shoot me an email and I'll get that over to you. And then finally, we are on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and we do a lot of research in our job. Abril and I read a lot of information. We find stuff that we come across out there that we think that you might be able to turn around and use with the people that you're counseling or maybe in your own daily lives. So follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and you might be surprised at some of the great information that we push out there. With that, we'd like to thank you again for joining us today, and we hope to see you again on a future Financial Awareness Basics webinar. Take care, everyone.
Bye.